They have decided to go and borrow more money when we are in debt to cover up that expenditure which has dwindled as a result of a recession. Is that a good decision? That debt that you are borrowing, you don't even know whether you will recover to go back to 10,000 or you continue going back, you even move from 5,000 to 3,000. But you go and borrow more money to cover up that 5,000 kwacha. This is what this budget is doing to the people of Zambia. When you are in a recession, normal governments, what they do, they will reconvene parliament and go in their budget, the estimates of expenditure, line by line, and say, Tumtenguleni, is it very urgent? If it is not urgent, if Unyanipo will come and do it when we have the money. These speed cameras that we are constructing, are they a priority? What effect will they have, immediate effect, on the living standards of our people? If the answer is there is no effect, remove it. You go line by line to reduce your expenditure so that you can make a budget tailored to the income that you have as a country. Wayabule shatu lefo kubile shati yandi. Wayabule nsaluwa kutuilile sata. You know, my private secretary is not here. The smallest man in my team. Does that make sense? You tailor the shirt according to the size of the cloth. This is what your government is missing. And why are they missing it? It's deliberately. Next year is elections. They just want to continue spending, creating an impression to the people that they are working. In actual fact, vale tengele shama fina muchilonda. Vale onawila kwechalo effect kesa mfika 2 years from now or next year. Teachers, civil servants, let me tell you this. You may end up not getting your salaries next year because of this budget. This budget is bad because it has gone to borrow 51% of the total budget to actualize the 119 budget. In short, Bakwete federal government, they only have 49% available resources that will come from what they can generate as a country. Then they are going to borrow 51%. 40 billion kwacha they are going to borrow so that baka kumanishe budget. In this budget to go and borrow 48 billion, are they important? Some of them are not. In fact, a lot of them are not. And I'll demonstrate in simple language. I don't want to go into semantics. I am an action-oriented person. I look at actuals, not estimates. Look, people of Zambia, we are going to pay, the means of finance has provided that we should pay 53 billion towards debt servicing. He has provided in this same budget he has provided that we are going to pay 48 billion towards now, to actualize the budget, to finance the budget, we need to borrow 53.6 billion. Which means we are borrowing to pay debt. So when you are borrowing to pay debt, it simply means you've been in debt for the rest of your life. You never come out of the debt. Budget Mwinge Maba Economic Association of Zambia. This is a stimulus budget. Stimulus mwefilwani mwe. Mlebe parena Zambia. should be ashamed of yourselves. This is how can you have a budget where you are paying in Congo 48 billion, Mwaya Congo 53.6 billion again? Meaning, therefore, unomwaka nga Congo 53.6 billion ukulipile Congolais shabapo. Next year you borrow more than 53 billion ukulipile Congolais, because in Congolais mwala borrowing for this financial year. Next year ile for kuidipila. Consequence of borrowing, more especially they have said most of from domestic, it simply means interest rates for the private sector to borrow, for you and I to borrow from the bank, will go up. And there will be not enough money for you and me to borrow for investment. Then the country will not develop. Countries develop by borrowing from the bank. Now, which bank would want to deal with the private sector if they can borrow from government? Because when they borrow from government, they are guaranteed that the money will come back. The risk of lending a government by the banks, local banks, is less than the risk of lending by Marita. So banks will opt to lend the money to government because they'll easily make good profits out of the lending to government. But when they lend to government, it means there will be no money enough now in the bank to lend to the private sector, to invest. And for you, if you have a problem, you go and borrow. If you borrow, the interest rates will be very high. A budget mulelu mbati life wina. Mwebena Zambia ndemu papata. Ala mule following a thing too. These people are full of deceit. Ufi. Umapiete. Uputi. Uluchelo kaundale landa. Lies in the morning. Lies at lunch. Lies in the afternoon. My dear brother President Edgar Lungu, you need proper advisors. You need a new team. If you have to survive your presidents, to advise you properly. These people advise you don't mean well. And if yourself you are also participating in this borrowing, you don't mean well for the people of Zambia. But it's not too late. For once, let's be truthful. Surely, you are paying for 8 billion debt. You go and borrow another 53. Next year, the servicing of the debt will go high. And what it simply means, if, for instance, you were allocating, for instance, in the same budget, last year, the health sector was allocated 9 billion to run the health sector. When the population is growing, last year you allocated 9.4 billion. Kushtemiti, if you are because of borrowing, because of spending too much money to pay debt, you have provided no. Last year it was 9.6 billion. This year is 9.4. Have you seen the trend? It's coming down. It simply means that the more you borrow, the more you are drawing money from the social sector, which is education, social protection, and indeed education, health, and many other social aspects. So makulati mwa kuchipata lata muri miti pantu impie shingi shira mkulipile nkongole. Just look at the total budget. The total budget for last year was, in 2021, was 106 billion, countrymen. Today it has gone to 119 billion. And this is not a final figure, because I know how governments operate. If you look at what they've provided for elections, they've provided 590 for elections. Where are my notes? They've provided 598 kwacha. against a budgeted 4. The Electoral Commission have told them, for us to do the elections, we need 800 million. Now the question you should ask yourself, if 598 MP in the middle of the year, before the elections, they will come back and do a supplementary estimate of another 300 million to give the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Just like this year, the president signed a warrant of expenditure, which is an expenditure which the president is authorizing that is not approved in Parliament when they present the initial budget. He asked for 15 billion. So you can see that this year's budget, 2019, is actually a total sum of 106 billion, which was initially approved in December last year, plus 15 billion, which the president signed to spend without the approval of Parliament. That means the budget for last year total came to 116 billion. So this year, the initial one is 119. By the time they will be finishing the year, this budget will be 125 billion, because there will be extra expenditure. For instance, I am convinced beyond reasonable doubts the Electoral Commission of Zambia cannot conduct elections with million. They will have supplementary estimate, meaning more debt, because they will go to borrow. Then somebody says this budget is very good. When you are in a recession, like I said, you should lower your budget. Well, the budget for this year should have come back to below 100, according to what we can generate, and obviously provide for a little bit of borrowing, because sure, you cannot do without borrowing. Then you'll be economical with the truth. But you should provide for just a little bit of borrowing. But 51% of the budget to borrow, when muntu no malondo for 17 17 mamalonda tawashikana badi mukesa ikala fe kuinonga na isa pantu inete tinte muntu ale for 17 kwati kutu ko muntu ba malonda ba for limbi 13 elo waya panga budget ya 2007 kuti batila umalonda mutuntulu kuti batila mutuntulu. This is what your government is doing. They have told us they can only raise 49% of the money, and then they are going to borrow 51%. Now look at what they are borrowing for. They increased the farmer import support program from 1.1 billion last year to 5.7 billion this year. Ask yourselves, what are they trying to achieve? Because FISIP, there's been studies that have shown that it has no effect on economic growth, because it is simply farmers are given 4 bags each under FISIP. How much maize can you get from 4 bags? Can you produce enough maize for your consumption as a family and leave something to sell from 4 bags? That's why you find farmers ngabalima yonse amatababashi chabashara nensala. Mailo, the same government goes at kwalipo nensala, disaster management kabwe chando yo lubiloyo. I am for the shamatala. Perpetual poverty, so that the people can forever be depending on handouts. If this government meant well under this increase from 1.5 billion to 5.7 billion, what they should have done, they should have increased, maintained the same beneficiaries, but increase their bags of fertilizer. Probably from 4 bags to maybe give them 20. Then you give them 2 years to support them with 20 bags or 3 years. After 3 years, they graduate. They start being on their own. You also now bring in another group that you give 3 years, 2020, they graduate to be on their own. But what has been happening since FISIP was introduced is that same beneficiaries, year in, year out. That's why it is a social project for household food security. Now, what they want to do with this 5.7, well, I am rural areas because next year is elections. They'll go and hand up more people to be given 4 bags. So that when the elections come, they'll go to them and say, you see, now we are giving you free fertilizer. A lot of you are receiving, and all those who are receiving fertilizer vote for us. It is meant to keep the PF perpetually in power by hoodwinking the people, create poverty, and use the poverty against them. So to me, this increase of 5.7 billion is unreasonable if, and I know that's the intention, is to add on more people. They've already said from about 6,000 targeted farmers, they want to go above 1 million. The only sense is to bring people in the bracket to vote for them, that we are giving more poor people fertilizer. But that fertilizer they are giving them is household food security. It will not have any impact on the growth of the agriculture sector. Because agriculture is a business where you should spend to make a profit. So this increase is politically motivated to have more people in the rural areas vote for PF in the 2021 elections. And you see that this one will be released very fast. The money to FISIP will be released when ministries this year have been suffering. They've not been funded. Projects have not been funded. But you see this FISIP money will be released very badly. After next year, bakesa that FISIP is not sustainable. Because it is not sustainable. Bakesa funyako mukabwela pa zero. In the meantime, na muvota of suffering. Look at the empowerment. Abantu abambiro kulila empowerment by youth need this year 266 million kwacha to give handouts to the youths. And most of the youths who benefit these are those who belong to PF. Meaning, therefore, what they want is to give, and look at the value, the amounts that they are giving. This same called commercial grade. Let me take some water. Look at the amounts that they are giving. Empowerment. 20 people, what they call a cooperative, 10,000 kwacha. Those in run 1,000 kwacha to look after 20 people in an organization. That money is going in the drain. It's as good as throwing money in a bottomless pit. In the meantime, that is borrowed money. If we want to get when it will just maybe benefit about 60,000 or 70,000 people. But in the wrong land, it is the entire Zambia that is going to pay that 200. You go and get a tanker, one tanker, fuel tanker, you give 20 people. I'm a tracker myself. When you go to the Congo on a trip and come back, net that you make, if you haven't had a breakdown or anything, the net is about $1,000. And it takes a month, a countryman. Yeah, and $1,000 in a month, about 20. Balaka Nashan. Is this sustainable? Puncture tile and 3,000 kwacha. 5,000 kwacha tile. Is it sustainable? But let me be fear to wink you to vote for them. Wake up, Zambians. There's never been anywhere in any government in this country where they've provided 266 million in one financial year to do empowerments. These empowerments are meant to win people to vote for them in the 2021 general elections. That's why I'm saying there is nothing that this budget is doing. And this budget is very against what they've been preaching. What the President and the Minister of Finance have been preaching is physical fitness and physical discipline. Physical fitness and physical discipline simply means you have to check your expenditure. Is it a priority or not? Look at the other issue. Like I told you, what we need now is to set up industry to create jobs, sustainable jobs. We have got IDC. The purpose why we created IDC in Abasata was for them to start setting up industries. For instance, I've always given an example. The MMD allowed Dr. Guy Scott to set up Mpongwe Development Farm. They spent $7.5 million. Today, Mpongwe Development Farm employs in excess of 18,000 people. And the jobs they do are sustainable jobs, pensionable jobs. But to give a youth 10,000, never 20, 15,000, it's not sustainable, it's hand to mouth. What we need is to allocate more money to IDC to set up industry so that people can be employed. This country was well industrialized until MMD nationalized, privatized the parastatals. And most of the people who bought these parastatals just came and got the machines, took them out of the country, and the industries were closed. What we need to prioritize now is to rebuild those industries and build more industry so that our people who are churning out from universities, from colleges, can have jobs. Are you not surprised, people of Zambia, that we have over 60,000 teachers unemployed, and yet we still have shortage of teachers? In rural areas, for those who don't move, you find at many of the schools in the rural areas, 3 teachers or 4 teachers against a stream from grade 1 to grade 9. 4 teachers. And yet we have a lot of teachers on the streets. Why haven't they put money in employing teachers so that they have a sustainable life? They want to put 266 in, because they know that if they employ the teachers, the payroll will go up and it will not be sustainable. They will not manage to pay them. So there's this they've introduced that when you complete school, that's internship. And they've created a fund within the Youth Empowerment Fund, which is going to be taking care of the allowances for those interns, which is about 1,500. They know they'll do it for next year while there are elections. Afterwards, they'll come and scrap it off. There'll be more money to pay interns. You get back kubulo for foot. Zambia shuke. Wake up, youths. E-budget is meant to win people to vote for them. The 6 youth empowerment. When you don't have electricity in the economy, when teachers and nurses are roaming the streets unemployed, civil servants have no salary increment. Why didn't they take this money and increase the salaries so that people start living well? Abantu balechula, but civil servant pay de kulwa lomtwe. Same government, the civil servants borrow money from the banks and these financial institutions. They deduct from the salaries. They don't pay those. They don't transfer the money to the lending institutions. Now, our teacher wale chula. The banks have now started recovering to the banks as they are paid. Wale chula ba teacher, and you are watching, but you are able to go and provide for 266 million to pay internship and youth empowerment, which are handouts. The proper youth empowerment, let IDC create an industry. Vapange farm, set it up then say the youth make a cooperative of 20. Here is a company. As a going concern, run it. That's proper empowerment. And we are empowering the youth. So in a nutshell, this budget is a joke and is a useless budget. By so saying, I am not implying that I'm being disrespectful to my elder brother, President Edgar Lungu, and those in government. Do the right thing. That's my job as opposition. Even when I was in government, I stood up to advise on issues where I felt we were not doing right. This is exactly what I'm doing, even when I'm out. So for those who say Kambwili is bitter, you are wasting your time, ask them my stance. You can't just attend cabinet meeting. And cabinet meeting, no. But when they make a decision, ask them about the debt. My last cabinet meeting spoke about the corruption on the Ndola Kitwe Due Carriageway. And somebody told me within that meeting that, you know, the problem is that when you are pointing at being corrupt, 3 fingers are also pointing at you. How can you answer like that? Instead of dealing with the issue that somebody has raised to say, look, I suspect there is corruption on this road, can we sort it? That when you are pointing 1 finger at others, 3 fingers. So, in an assistant, that's what makes me Chishimba Kambwili. It's because I'm consistent. And I don't say things with impunity to be unfair to others, only to make people make the right decision in the running of this country, because I'm a shareholder. Not only am I a shareholder, my children are shareholders. My aunties, my uncles, my nephews, number, to make it even worse, my grandchild, Eli Chishimba Kambwili, whom I hold very dearly to my heart. So now, Papa, and you MPs, as you discuss this budget, bring out pertinent issues to show this government that this budget does not mean well. What I personally expected was that the budget was going to reduce to about 80, 90, or 70 billion, so that we can live within our means and avoid to contract more debt, because we are already in a debt distress. We are failing to meet our obligations. That is why we've asked for a sure. I mean, where's the logic there? Where's the logic? We fall 10,000. But still reduced to 5,000. Ero waya panga budget ya 15,000. Kutubatilo ni mutuntulu. Kutubatila mwali baba rent mumutu wabene bali kukamu. Mwali baba rent, that's why you name money kidefi. Tabale sakule mishpantu wababene kutubala moneko usaka. Nomba muli aba rent. Budget is useless. Look, when I say they are using semantics, we are introducing 40% import duty on beef and fish so that we support the local industry. But we exclude the beef and fish that is coming from the SADC region. What a deceit. Now, they are supporting local industry. Now the fish and beef will not come. In Amatulia, Nessa Viding, from SADC region. Kabian Mushop right, Monena Mashavamo, candy, beef, Yavamo, na fiance, meat products. Fiaku Sava Oliver. It's from South Africa and Botswana. Manuna Mosiaku Brazil and Mosiaku Kenya Mashop Sumies. So, Idakumi, but he joke with ya. Bite the bullet and say we introduce 40% duty on all products coming from outside Zambia, SADC inclusive. Then I'll take you serious that you want to develop local industry. mulebe pa abantu, because very little in terms of fish and beef products come from outside the SADC region. You know what is going to happen? Because you have not built capacity in the local producers, particularly fish in Zambia has depleted. Kuluapula kwa le fumesa bino sasa kufumesa. Kuluapula nga wakwa wotu sabitu lifi. Twaledi otubo imboa takwaba. Nombesa bibala di abantu yala fumakwisi. So aba ku China nga bakula later with 40% duty. Isa vidala aba very expensive. Aba kachulila mu bantu aba kalashitesa. Teimwe yo. So to every action there must be a reaction. So mule tontonka nyapo before you say things. The main shops where people buy things is ShopRite, Pick and Pay, Neya Kuboswana Chan, Choppies. Onsaba shitishaba mwenye who are selling products, order them from South Africa. They don't order meat and meat products from Brazil or China or anywhere. So that provision of 40%, it will have no meat and meat products will continue coming in with low duty from South Africa, which are more cheaper than the beef that is produced in Zambia. Amalwele mwalifilo kushika control animal diseases. There is a animal ban, transportation of animals from southern province, which is the major producer of beef into Lusaka and the Copper Belt. So beef, iyo mwalafu nyokutwala mkushika Copper Belt ya alafu mapa. Mulebe pa abantu kula bashinga bata flatwa lelanda kubwa ichi kwati mulebe abantu abanono. You go and zero rate refrigerated trucks. How many people or how many things which are refrigerated that are transported? Very few. Zero rate, so that every Zambian who has money can bring in a truck to build the transport industry. Zero rate all the trucks, not refrigerated trucks. Very few people are interested in refrigerated trucks. Finish back at Ascenda. I'm refrigerated trucks, but there are big businesses like ShopRite, Pick and Pay, Zambif. Ebo mwalete ama refrigerated trucks. Zero aba nenu, ba miwa febane, tatukwete ama refrigerated trucks, kafuyenko duty. Those are the people you are reducing for. Not a common Zambian. A common Zambian want to go and buy a truck which can transport everything. Not a refrigerated truck. So go and zero rate import duty on all the trucks. Then you'll be talking. So don't say semantics. No focus abantu. It's a stimulus budget. Kongola stimulus budget. So for us in the NDC, this budget is unreasonable and it will not stimulate the economy. To the contrary, it is putting us in more debt. Last year there was a provision of 11 billion for power generation projects. This year he never even talked about it. We need more money in power generation because the biggest problem that we have this year is not farmer import support, is not 10 kwacha to give to the youths. It's not, look, 3 billion to spend in the defense forces, Ministry of Defense. You go and buy army trucks, fighter jets, helicopters, when we've never been at war since independence. How is it a priority? That does not mean that we need equipment. We still have equipment that has never been used. Never been used before. Absolute. But mwavika 3 billion. Elo mwavika ku health 9 billion. Wabantu mukanshi. Bantu yalafisha mukanashita ku defense. Mulika commission. Mulika nchekelako. You prioritize it. Bule ni umufundo. Mulundile abantu bale poka 20 or so bags. so that they can balima bashitisha kofimo bashala kone mpya shakutwalira abana ku sukulu tekula bapero mfundo fomo yabikira kona bambi social cash transfer, you have increased it reasonably well, but abantu bafora ma 60 kwacha, but you want to bring in more people to get 60 kwacha. What is 60 kwacha today? If you mean well, you say we maintain face the same, tuwalundira at least abantu bale poka ko 300 or 400 pamweshi bayimika ko bunga and a few things. 60 kwacha mwefo kulunda pona bambi mo agunda. That's what I'm saying. This budget is not to stimulate the economy or to help the people of Zambia. It's to weak people to vote for them. Same a cash transfer. You just want to go to the rural areas and give more people 60,000 kwacha. In order, but mwala batatwete Amalite. We have no industries. Because Amalite nama industry ino nshita esho tufuido kubika kosana mano. You go and zero rate electrical cars. Nina niwa kwa tapo electrical car. Mulchino chalo. Go and zero rate all the cars so that abantu bashite myotoka. The vehicles we are using right now are, you know, petroleum powered vehicles. You even go and stand in parliament vakalamba bandiwa Dr. Nando, I respect you. And I told you when you joined to say, I think you are joining at a wrong time. Why I mean in parliament and say, we have zero rated the electrical cars. Electrical car. So take tumtika bantuko. Na bantu balalumba zero rated electrical cars, not in Mbwili teti isumine because Mbwili sees beyond. Echo inini na kuchimuti. Isha lea mona kaikata. So you can't mislead Mbwili. You can't blindfold Mbwili. Kuti mwa ikaka ngefumule fuku ikaka batika stimu. Kama dika mcaptivity kama isura kwa fela kutukaya yafu. So stop misleading the people. This budget is putting us into more problems than we ever are. I spoke about this issue with a hope that Vaesa Uchulu, Va Mshindano, you were listening and that you take my advice into account. But arrogantly, you have gone ahead with online voter registration and you are still insisting that you only do the voter registration for 30 days. Look, lesa tu pepa efiava apalamika feta pera muminwe. God only brings certain issues to show that things are not all right. Look at the online voter registration. On the first day, and usually when something has been introduced on the first day, that's when you see a rush. That's when people would want to go and register to see how it is working. You registered 16,000 and you started boasting that for one day we registered 16,000. Let's take it that you are registering 16,000 people per day. In 10 days, you register 160 people. In 30 days, you register 480 voters. Successful. Imova Media, is that program successful? 480 out of the target of 9 million. And when you are doing voter registration, there are no queues. People will not come to line up. But when you go to the actual mobile voter registration, and it takes, from my experience, 15 to 20 people, 20 minutes per person to finish registration as a voter. Surely in 30 days, can you register 9 million people? So it has already shown you that you will not meet the... Why are you insisting on 1 month? Why are you insisting on voter registration? And above all, why do you want to do away with the old register? this register came up from about 3 registrations, 3 elections, to have the 5 million people that we have. Now you are saying, if you don't verify your details, you are out and you not vote. Where are you going to get the 9 million people to vote? Alabaesa uchulu, piket shaladi lembe, adi mbile, ati le muila shenteka, le samweba nensu, le satabe pua, ala sevanya, bachin sochaban. Pole badi sevan, muka sevan. Because by the end of this registration, Mukesa Star announced that we have registered 1 million people. Now, out of the 16, 17, 18 million Zambians, 1 million Ewakapange decision who should govern this country. Some of these things you can avoid them. Don't be arrogant, Electoral Commission of Zambia. You are there, created by, established by an act of parliament, for and on behalf of the people of Zambia. Listen to the people of Zambia and listen good. Nshindano, listen. And what are you telling us? You go and sit with the chief government spokesperson, Doris Leah, which government is interested in the elections, to issue a joint statement to say we are going. It simply means it's government who's telling you what to do. As Electoral Commission of Zambia, you are supposed to be autonomous. Where is the autonomy? If you can issue a joint statement with the chief. It has never happened in the history of this country that this is a spokesperson to announce how they are going to carry the elections. You are announcing what PF wants to do in the elections. Shame on you. Kanshindano, shame. Wikaleka tukasuli abantu abakashika. Ine abakashibandi nabana bandi bali kashika. Wikaleka abantu bakaleba abantu bakashika tabakwatamana. Mulandu wayo. Pantulo twakwete the former chief election officer at nani? Dan Kalale wafita. Ale pangama decisions ayasuma. You are isano busweshi bobe. You want to mess up things. Bachulu. Insoni Ubuntu. Please register the voters using the normal registration in 3 months and stay away from the old register. Let the old register be the way it is, and those who are on the old register, let them go to vote. They don't need to get new cards. Mulefu afya bakala printa makadzi mukabali pilenda na mukaliemo. Nchekera kwa from lefu atefi. Twalimishiba. Amafusaka no mali yatemwa. Why should you go and spend money to print other voters cards when people already have voters cards? Tayafutika? Yatuntulu? Why? Only those who have lost the voters cards can come and re-register and get new cards. But for those who are already on the register, why are you insisting? Just why are you insisting? And by the way, PF, why are you the only party that is not against this thing by Electoral Commission of Zambia? Because all the political parties have said, no, maintain the old register, more PF will require it. So, ni agenda yenu. I always say, please, political power or political leadership or political jobs are not in perpetuity. They come a time that you will not be in government. Think about the future of your children and your grandchildren. The way you treat others, if you are not careful, you'll be treated in the same way. But would you want to be treated the way you are treating others? If you want to mcheleka, mwayamu pela aggravated robbery, nanombale chula. Umwana wabeli alikuwa tabana na alinieba, please mule kwa tolu se mule fwa alimbi mfukame balungu, please free Mucheleka and those people. If you want to charge them for the appropriate offense, not aggravated robbery. They never committed aggravated robbery. For God's sake, free mucheleka efye mwachitirena kuli mwali teta ali chula 1 year paka basa muchita quit na mpapata frafine mwa umfile kuli jeje mwa mpero mulandu unono bene abanene bomfile nyu abana nabakwata banyina bawishi baloleke shapo uluse ebuntu otherwise ngatamkwete oluse na imwe nechikesa michitikila. Even if I came into power, when I come into power, I will not treat people the way you are treating people. Because if you're not pitamo, tetinte mo muntu kupitamo, ukula ya kukoti yonse, kwa teko mbomba. I can't work. I can't look around for money to feed my family because don't say muntu wala kukoti. Na papa tila kumcheleka na bambi. Whenever smumbe feba mube tile bale keniko. Abantu abalanda about rigging elections in this country bengi twalina basata twaya kumulungushi. You have rigged this. Looking for them, they have run away. Baheme mtibali tile basata ku police. We munyina nelungu bashita sila. Maramba no kwata le shukulu nomba mule ufia. Shukulu kwate ni uluse. Munyinane na iwa abantu bakesa kwatilo uluse. Ififi akutilo muntu wa sosafie mukameni pa mukoshi mukakenyu mwendo aote fsuma mumbale landa paniki. If you didn't rig, why should you come Mumba kumuchitaras? I'm coming Mumba. I want to come and support you. Ngabale kuikata pakambo noko bale kuikata munyina. Ichalo nacho naika. Ama isoseleta muli. Ero kambole bati. We are Democrats. Kamba, democracy. We love wako wafumine mwacho wale shobo alwa pa komesa. Ubu alwa wale shichafi ubu alwa. Lelo wali nonka, ule nunke chuma pa mubidi. Ta ule mono kuchula kwa aba mwobi. Ushibutu kila mtembo wa mubiye. No wako upoko. God bless them. I hope the Electoral Commission of Zambia have listened and listened good. That please to a papata. But PF, I'm calling upon the President Edgar Lungu, Secretary General Muila, to ale bomba once for mine boy. Very new Electoral Commission of Zambia, your timetable Mpangile is not enough, and leave the old register. Munika to ala chino chalo. Mumulilo. And I want to tell you, if you are not going to maintain the old register, and give enough time to allow Miyamabumba, who ask our structures all over the country on one or without a permit to demonstrate. Because echo mwashitira fyo fimyotoka fya kusanse pili kula tini abantu. Nomba fwe bambi tu alishimpula ngomushunga twafyo kwa kushomutu. Ule kwato use. No kitafe chintu chiweme abantu bakamutasha sheni shineli sumati balungu ndo bali pa president ngefaranda pali mwana wasa achitire chaputi eshina abantu bafilo kusha munyinane lungu sheshina lisuma. A good name is better than riches. I have already spoken about the teachers who are suffering. You are recovering money from them, you are not taking from the bank. And I am told that the banks have now signed the memorandum of understanding with the lenders to be deducting from the little that they are sending for teachers. That's also illegal. You cannot start deducting money by bank from somebody's salary. Stop that. What you need to fight is that government must send the money that they've deducted from civil servants. But teacher wafura shinga. Waputula, no letter, na imufutu mwaisa putula. Abantu walafu wakunsala. Bali na wana. Paten kwenkumu. Youth empowerment, they are budgeted for. But because it is a tool to have you elected, mwalia kundola, mwapela kuna bamobamu. Chishite tumubuli endala mputuila ba teacher, mupele ba bepot, ba teacher wale kwa bakonkela, the little that is remaining. Wana mnina nyuluselu sumba. Enu wangata wachula po. Ni fini abantu wachita behave. Fwe wachula po tatufuwa ya abantu kuchula. twale kala abantu abengi batate basambilile beka twale la punish pabutanda na tusunda no butanda na vulembeka mumba. And I wouldn't want people of Zambia to suffer the way I suffered. That's why I work hard and I speak for the people of Zambia so that the people of Zambia can be liberated. Look at what is reported today in the paper. A scandal at KCM where 1.5 million. I don't know, I've got no facts, but it has been reported that Milingo was involved and he went to buy a company, blah, blah. That's why I'm saying leave more money to investors. HCM, like I said. This government now has reached the roof level in terms of borrowing. Where is the system going to borrow to run more money? Instead, they have pensioner in Chingola. Pay them the money that they worked for under KCM. Because it is clear that KCM will not come back. Pay them what they worked for under KCM. It has now become a mine for cadres. Washala, washala, waya, waya. Ukwa linsoke. Takwa file bono. Elo muntu ule kwewe shinka. Ni munonko ali kutemwa. My dear President, those people who surround you don't love you. Because they're not telling you the truth. I love you. That's why I'm telling you the truth. So that you do the right thing on behalf of the people of Zambia. Except that more often than not, abantu abalande fshinkata wabatemu. Ndemona utona chifuo kulanda tuanse. Ninda. Tuamulisa. Tatupwa kusala. Tele tabulapo. Tugusondwelela. Remember, umwana shumfwa. Amene no mwefu kwikoshi. Chilifia chifilifio mkonso. Chisesa chitonto litomfwa. Ushumfwa nao. Munshebwa. Aile na mashinisha kuko. Cry, my beloved country. Amen.